I'm Raelynn Lake, and I am at the Legacy DIY, and I'm doing just an intro demonstration to throwing. So I'm going to start just by wedging the clay. I'm probably going to do about 2 pounds, or 1.5 pounds roughly. If I was throwing a set of mugs or something like that, I would be weighing this out just so that I could have the same size of everything, and then you get the same size pot or mug. So for wedging, we're basically just going to get the clay activated. And when I'm doing that, I'm rolling the clay up, leaning into it, and you end up with a kind of a monkey or a duck face. If you get this face, you know you're doing it right. We're just waking up the clay so that it's going to participate on the wheel with us. And then once I have it into kind of like a cone shape, I just pat it around the bottom so that we get a really nice round bottom. And this is really important because when you put it onto the wheel head, you want it to connect, and then it's going to spread out and not trap any air underneath it. So we'll get a good seal to the wheel. So next we'll move over to the wheel. Okay, so we're going to basically slam this down onto the wheel head. We want to get a nice seal, so we're going to shoot for the center. Give it a couple of smacks just to make sure that we got it on. Most important, you always need to use water when you're throwing. You want to have that slip between you and the clay so that you don't have friction. And I'm going to start by centering the clay. And doing that requires that you use, basically you're going full speed with the wheel. And we're just going to cone it up and then bring it back down. And the pressure I'm putting on is mostly at the bottom, slowly bringing it up. So once we have it centered, you'll be able to tell it's centered because you have no wobbles. Everything's nice and smooth. So at this point, we're going to start opening up the vessel. I like to just put a little dent in there with my thumb so there's a place for the water to go. And then I'm going to start, this hand is just going to support the outside of the clay. These fingers are actually going to head straight down towards the wheel head, and we're going to be really careful not to go all the way. So when we get to where we think we should be, or sometimes it's even better to stop before so that you don't go too far, we're just going to clean that out, and we're going to check the thickness of the base, and there's about, it's a little less than 1 centimeter, but usually about 1 centimeter is what you're going to want when you're beginning throwing, so that you don't end up with too thin of a bottom. So the next step is to now open up the base of the pot, which is going to involve just taking the best way that I describe to beginners is, again, we're using full speed. Using your thumbs, and we're just slowly, evenly pulling out to the side. This motion is actually setting the bottom of your pot. So you want to have a nice flat bottom, and then we're going to compress. So compressing involves taking your fingers at the bottom and just pressing down, going all the way out to the outside, and then back in, making a nice even base. That helps to prevent any cracking. So from that point, now we can actually start pulling the sides up, pulling the walls, throwing the walls, however you want to call it. And this is the first pull. I like to actually just bring up anything that may have actually just spread out in the process of opening it. So I use the inside of my hand and pressure on the outside, and I slowly bring that wall up against my finger, and it helps to even out that wall as well, and that way make it a lot easier for pulling. You don't have any thin spots. So to actually pull the walls up, we're gonna use a formation like this, where this is the inside hand, this is the outside hand. And as we start to compress, it creates a channel of clay for that to start to climb up. It's important to always be taking away some of that water that's sitting in there. The clay is always absorbing it, and it'll get soft, and you don't then start to collapse. And then we put the water back in. I'm gonna start to bring this out a little bit. We'll start to shape this bowl. So what I'm doing is just supporting on the outside with my sponge, and then putting the pressure from the inside, just slowly working my way up. You need to be cautious of letting this rim get too thin. You want to keep it a little bit thicker. Bring a little bit more clay up from the side. I'll just do a little bit of cleanup. You can do some final shaping on the outside as well with your ribs. Take any water out. And then we'll trim the excess clay that's at the bottom. Clean this up a bit. Once this has dried a little bit and it's leather hard, then we can turn it over and trim it with tools and create the foot rim on the base. Okay, so now we're gonna cut this off the wheel. I'm just gonna kind of clean up some of this first. I have a wear board ready here with a little bit of paper on top so that it doesn't stick to the board as it's starting to dry. And we're gonna take the wire tool, I'm just gonna wrap it around my hands so that I get it the length that I need it. And I suppose I should probably put this board here. Okay, so the trick here is you make sure you keep it nice and taut, and you wanna keep it against the wheel head as you pull it through so that you don't cut through the bottom. Water on there. I'll pull it through one more time. That water just helps it to slide. And we're gonna pop it on the board. There we go, that's it.